Hello, everybody, and welcome to Arizona Broadway Theater's Throwback Thursday. I am your host, Kurtis Overby, and we are so excited that you decided to join us tonight. Tonight's guests are two incredible musicians and all-around wonderful people. We are talking to Mr. James May and Mr. Josh Condon, two wonderful musical directors from right here in the Valley. They didn't get their start, well, they haven't worked here all the time. They've been working other places as well. But we are very lucky to have these two incredible talents in our Valley of the Sun. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Great.
Doing great, Kurtis.
I'm doing fantastic. Hanging in there, yeah. They are sitting at their piano, everybody. I asked them if they would sit by their piano because I'm going to beg them to play something. In a little while. But let's chat with these wonderful gentlemen. How you doing? Everybody safe? Mr. May, how are you doing? Are you safe and healthy?
I'm safe and healthy. I'm getting a little stir crazy, but I try to abide by all the rules.
Good. And Josh, how are you?
We're doing great. Yeah, again, just kind of ready to get out there, but I've had a haircut and that's about it. So we're ready to do more than that, but we're doing well. We're quarantining with lots of fun. So
good. I'm glad to hear it all. Hey, everybody on Facebook, if you have any questions or comments that you want to ask these two gentlemen or myself, please send those questions my way, and Brad will help me ask those questions to these fine gentlemen here. But I have some questions that I'd like to ask and get off my chest tonight. I'm kidding. But you both are incredible pianists. Like, I've worked with both of you very intimately. Like, I know how you work. I know how you direct. I guess my question is, and this is going to be some information for me too. When did you start playing the piano? When did you start lessons? And how did you transition into musical direction and conducting musicals? Josh, we'll start with you.
I started when I was 6, so 22 years ago, and just doing all the classical piano, stuff from the, Lady in Town. And then eventually, by the time I was 8, I started working with a college professor, and then gradually moved into jazz, and then proceeded to do that. It led into choir directing, which then inevitably led into community concerts that involved lots of musical theater. And then conducting became a part of that. And then when I graduated, well, actually in my undergraduate, I did a lot of musicals or helped out with a lot of singers, and did some shows. And then my first professional production as a music director was for Rock of Ages for Norwegian Cruise Line after I graduated.
Oh, right. So you've been, now, so tell me, what was your first piano recital song? Like, what did you play for your first piano recital, Josh?
Oh, I don't remember, but the first piece I ever learned was an all black key version of Linus and Lucy. So it's like, and it's all in the black keys if you just play it with like 3 fingers. And that was the first thing I ever learned before I ever had a lesson. I just learned it by ear. My dad actually taught it to me.
Oh,
because he can play a little piano.
Well, that is very interesting. We're going to get more in detail. I'm getting some questions, which is great. I'll ask those in a few minutes. That's great. That's awesome. Mr. May, Mr. James May, when did you start playing piano? How did you transition into this crazy musical theater thing and conducting?
Well, my mom was a piano teacher.
Okay.
And the story is I would get up on the piano bench when I was 3 or something and pick out by ear what the kid had just been playing, more or less. So she said, well, he better get lessons. And that started at 5. And I was classical mostly all the way through until high school. So how it transitioned was I lived here in high school. I went to Saguaro High School in Scottsdale, and we were doing a production of Fiorello. Fiorello is a great musical. A lot of people don't do it. I was on stage. Our conductor, who was also the vocal director, got really angry with somebody on stage during a song. Marie's Law was the song. I was off in the left wing, ready to make an entrance. He threw the baton down and left the pit in the middle of a song. So I raced out, first time I ever picked up a baton, and luckily it was all in 2 in the same tempo. And I just kept it going until the end, and that was the first time I ever conducted anything. And then I went to Western, and I was always classical there, and then after school I got into doing shows. I guess it started by doing theme parks and then moving on from there.
Sure.
As Josh said, with his, was it 22 years ago this happened with you? Well, with me, it was 62 years ago. That's neither here nor there.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have a few people I want to say hi to. Mr. Bob Downing. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Oh my gosh, it's been so long. I hope you're doing well. Peter Rollins says South Pacific was the best production he ever saw. Loved every minute.
Mm-hmm.
Then Mr. Jim Christian is watching. Hi, Jim. And now I'm getting some more questions, which is great. But let me ask one more question of both of you, and then we'll get into some of the Facebook questions. What was your first musical that you musically directed, like professionally?
Josh or?
Well, I Rock of Ages, I guess, was the first one I was paid to do. But before then I had conducted like concerts and done, things with musical material in it, reviews and that sort of thing. But the first book musical was Rock of Ages.
What a book musical to start your career. I love it. I love it so much. Mr. May, what was your first musical that you musically directed?
Well, the first one was a show that I wrote with 2 friends of mine who are now married to each other, Kay and Charlie. Hi. And that was in high school. And we had an esteemed director, Dick Van Dyke, actually directed the show.
Oh my God.
And that was my own music, so it doesn't count. The first show that I music directed that was well known was Anything Goes. And that was a lot of fun, great dance show. So it really, it was hard to get all those tempos for the esteemed choreographer, but we did it.
Yeah. I love that show. It holds a very, very special place for AB specifically and for me. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you some of the questions that we're getting. James and Josh, what was the most challenging show you've ever MD'd? Now, I actually have one of those questions down, but what was the most challenging, Mr. May, for you?
I believe maybe it was Lion King, because Lion King, you had a drummer, you had a percussionist, and then out in the house you had 2 house percussionists playing every kind of African instrument there was. And to keep all 4 of those people all together with a full 20-piece orchestra, that was a challenge. I mean, we did it, but it was probably the hardest thing I ever did.
Wow. Josh, what's been the most difficult or most challenging show you've MD'd?
Probably back in college, I conducted a 72-piece orchestra for this Disney review that I did, and it also included like an 80-plus person chorus. And so I organized and put it all together. And at that time, just with my experience, that was definitely and still in my memory the hardest thing to logistically put together, and my first time doing a big stick conducting thing.
That sounds horrible.
It was fun though. I haven't done that many people since, but
oh my gosh, that's so challenging. Okay, my next question from Facebook is, what is the best thing about doing musicals versus playing other kinds of music, i.e. jazz or classical or anything like that? What's that thing about musical theater? Mr. May?
I think it's telling a story. That's what I love about musical theater, is telling a story and having a chance to be in collaboration with a director and a choreographer. I play classical a lot, and my favorite thing in classical is chamber music because it's a collaboration. Musical theater is a real collaboration, and that's more satisfying to me.
Yeah. Josh, what's the best thing about doing musicals versus the other stuff?
That's a great answer from Mr. May. Collaboration, number one. I got into this because I love that aspect of it. Probably also the variety of the music that helps support the storytelling. So that's such a unique thing. And I like to say I have musical ADD, and then I like all sorts of different kinds of music, and musicals provide the opportunity to really dig in deep to styles and how that style helps tell the story that we're all on the journey with for an evening. So that
Sure.
for sure.
All right. Okay, so tell me, okay, besides the hardest, most challenging show that you've done, what was one of the shows that you walked into on the first day and you were like, oh, this music's not going to be that difficult, but once you started teaching or you got into rehearsals, you realized that that music was no joke. Josh, what was that show for you?
Probably Legally Blonde is deceptively hard
Yes.
and detailed and really just really specific with how it needs to be managed. It doesn't sound that way necessarily some of the time,
Mhm.
but that show threw me for a loop initially, but I caught on. I hope.
And Mr. May, what was that show for you?
Well, actually, it was a keyboard show where I wasn't conducting. I had been music directing for years, and then a friend of mine, John McDaniel, was conducting Chicago at Long Beach, and he wanted me to play second keyboard. And this was the original orchestrations from the 70s, and I didn't do my homework. Let's just put it that way. I mean, I thought I can sight read anything, and I went in there and I went, oh my God, I screwed it up so bad in the rehearsal, the first one. And he called me and said, you got to learn this thing. And then I did, but that was really hard. You know how Chicago books are, Josh.
Oh, Chicago is deceptively difficult.
Yeah.
Difficult, yes. I'm getting some more questions. I wanna get to them. We got a lot of people watching. Hi, everybody. We adore everybody watching us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see. Anybody or any one of you accidentally toss a baton at any point? Like accidentally, you were just into it and you tossed that bad boy? Has that happened to you, Mr. May?
Yeah, it was during Beauty and the Beast. And it was during the mob song, when everybody's coming after the beast. Bum, 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 bum. And the baton went flying up onto the stage. And the guy that was playing Le Fou, who was Gaston's friend, he picked up the baton and he tossed it back like on a beat, so nobody knew the difference.
No one knew the difference. Josh, have you accidentally tossed that baton at any point?
Yes, I did it in Seussical. And I think the cellist is still mad, but I think we've patched it up since then.
So with that being said, what's the funniest thing that's been thrown to you from the stage?
Oh boy.
Oh man.
It has happened. It has happened.
Well, I will say from Mr. May, you did Sweeney Todd for us.
Yes.
ABT. And I realized, I think it was the second time we did it here, that the blood,
forgot about the blood.
To squeeze them and it would shoot. And I go downstairs on a day off or whatever, and there was no show. And I see the keyboard and I'm looking at the keyboard and it's just stained with like ink. And I'm like, oh, wow, he must get a lot of that coming at him from the stage. Is that true? Like
that you're right. That it has to be the worst because I never knew where it was going to go. Now, Josh was playing second keyboard for me on that, and he would always get up right before that moment and move off to the side.
Not until it happened the first time.
No, the first time, no.
Yeah.
But that was awful. And every night, and Tony would hold it differently every night, so that would determine where the spray would go, I guess. I'm not sure how that works, but that was the worst thing for me was the blood in Sweeney.
Yeah, same.
It's tough. Yeah. Let's see. All right. Let's move on to a couple of other things that I'm interested in. Let's talk about your favorite. Well, I know Mr. Mays. I'm going to ask this just so that everybody else can understand. Who is your favorite musical theater composer? I don't know if I know Josh's, but I'm going to find out. I know Mr. Mays, so go ahead, May. Say it.
Okay. I have to be Stephen Sondheim. My favorite.
I mean, he's incredible. I hear that. And just musically directing, I'm sure it's a challenge. And so
it's so rich musically, and it gives you everything that you want. It's like doing a classical piece, really.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Josh.
I feel like Sondheim is like 3 genres in scope. So I don't want to say that he's my favorite just because of Mr. May said, but I think Jason Robert Brown. Yeah, I know. I do want to say it. I think Jason Robert Brown would probably be my like personal favorite pianist and how he composes. So
I do that too.
Yeah. So I think of like, there's like, many different versions of Sondheim. So in total, I probably appreciate Sondheim the most, and he's my favorite up there with Bernstein. But as far as like the particular uniqueness that is Jason Robert Brown, I really, really am a huge fan and appreciate that specifically.
He's such a percussionist. I think Stephen Sondheim is as well, but like Jason Robert Brown is such a percussionist. Like you can hear the drums with not even there's no percussion set except the piano, of course. Okay, well I knew that one.
It has incredible time. His time is, we've all heard him play. It's just impeccable time.
Yeah, he's incredible.
When we saw him live at ABT, he really, was stomped his foot, and like you're taught, like James, you're both pianists. You probably were taught early on. It's like, don't stomp your feet. Don't stomp your feet.
Right.
But when you look at people like him and other people like Billy Joel, how really that physicality really helps keep the groove going. And so I feel like if he can do that, then I can do that.
Listen, I stomp my foot every single time I play. Absolutely, 100%. Mr. Adam Berger says, hello, boys. How you doing? Hey, Berger, how you doing? Hope you're doing well.
Wheel of Fortune.
We saw you on Wheel of Fortune. Awesome. Well, Mr. May, Mr. Josh Condon, I need to know, everyone's wondering, what's your favorite musical? Let's see, Josh, what's your favorite musical thus far?
I can't say one, but I can say a top 3, if you'll allow me. Probably Light in the Piazza, Sunday in the Park, and my most happy fella would be my like top 3 to just listen to. I could listen to them all day.
Okay, I accept all 3. You pass. Mr. May.
Well, with me, it's whatever show I'm doing at the time becomes my favorite. But if I had to put one over all of them, I think Sweeney Todd would be the top. I mean, it just gives everything that I love in a musical.
Sure.
But I also love Lion King, and I love Light in the Piazza too.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Enough about musical theater and blah, blah, you playing. Let's get what people really want to know. What are you watching? What are you binge watching right now on TV? Mr. May, what are you binge watching?
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I love that show. And Ozark, that, yeah.
Oh,
mostly that. And then I like to go to HBO and see old movies that are on there and stuff like that.
To do it, you've got some time to kind of get some movies. It's a good time. Yes, Ozark is. I'm trying to become Laura Linney and Jason Bateman's friends. I think it's so well written.
It's genius writing.
Oh
my gosh, so twisted. Josh, what are you binge watching right now?
We were into Street Food Asia recently, but we haven't watched too much lately, just because it can be really a temptation to make that a large part of what you do. So we're kind of on a TV fast, I guess, right now. I mean, not officially, but just we're Netflixed out at the moment. So
Well, at some point you get to the point where you're like, I've watched everything that I want to watch.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I think another great question is what's on your playlist for both you're musicians. What are you listening to right now? What's keeping you sane and what's keeping you kind of grounded and focused? Mr. May, what are you listening to right now?
Well, classically, I love Mahler, and especially Mahler First Symphony, and I listen to it so often, and I hear different conductors do it and how they do different tempos. As far as shows go, what I like to do, I take a morning walk every day if I can. I like to pick a show that I don't know well, that I've never done, like Next to Normal, for example. That's what I used yesterday. And I listen to a new show and become more familiar with it, the shows that I have not done.
Yeah.
Just so I can learn them.
Awesome. Josh, what are you listening to right now?
It kind of varies day to day. Usually something will pop up and then I'll kind of go down a rabbit hole. So like yesterday I was listening to Finding Neverland because I was making a recording. And beyond that, Jacob Collier, Rachmaninoff, Count Basie, it just kind of varies.
Okay, I'm getting a question from Facebook. Any favorite guilty pleasure music? Anything you wouldn't admit to liking or bragging about? Mr. May?
The Carpenters.
Oh, that's not
what? They're great.
Yeah. I know, but as far as, new music, that's definitely not new.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. Yeah.
I love them.
What's your guilty pleasure music right now?
I think there's no guilt in the Carpenters. That was actually something we were just listening to recently. Some of their medleys, the Burt Bacharach medleys, so good. This might be weird, but Phantom of the Opera, huge fan.
Oh,
weird.
I mean, and I certain things, yes, but I'm a huge fan of the score. So,
yeah. Do you have a mask?
Do I have a what?
A mask?
A mask. I do have a mask, but not that one. But yeah.
You take a COVID mask and turn it sideways.
Yeah.
There you
go. What was your first musical at ABT, Mr. May?
West Side Story 5 years ago.
That's right. And Josh, what was your first musical here, buddy?
Miracle on 34th. No, that's a lie. That's the first one I directed, Miracle on 34th Street. But before that, I did the first iteration of Sweeney Todd at the Herberger with Mr. May.
That's right.
And that was my first.
That's right. Oh my
yeah.
God. And then we've got another. What show was the hardest chorus part to teach? Like the chorus, the ensemble, the choral parts. What would be the hardest ones that you've run into, Josh?
Ooh, can you come back to me on that one?
Yeah. Mr. May?
I think for me, it was the African music in Lion King. Every Lion King production in the world uses 6 real South Africans that join the company, and so they authentically help with how to speak all those words. And there's these clicking words which I can't do when I'm speaking, but there's a lot of that, and it was the most difficult thing is to teach all that African stuff, I think.
Josh?
I think it was Seussical, which I did with high schoolers. And that's what made it particularly challenging because there was a lot of just spread voicings. And for the guys, it's particularly hard. And so I was really, and especially with their changing voices at that age, learning how to work with that and how to utilize that so that they don't hurt themselves and sound the best, So that was a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I have to say that I enjoy working with all of the musical directors here at the theater, but I enjoy working with both of you. It means a lot to have a musical director that's just on it, and it shows through the show and the rehearsals and the run and the history Like we go back and we go, you know what, that was just great. It was just a great musical show. So thank you both for being incredible musicians and leaders. I think everybody wants you to play something. I'm getting notes here. Mr. May, what are you going to play? You're going to play something classical?
No, I'm going to play a medley I just kind of threw together this afternoon of just 2 songs. And it's from the first show I did here and the last show I did here.
At ABT.
Okay?
Can't wait.
You can guess what they are.
Yeah.
Right on.
Okay, come on. No one in their mind would just pick up and say, I'm going to play the beginning of West Side Story.
Well, that was the very first thing we ever did together. That part of it, the prologue. Mm-hmm. You and me, the first day I ever worked with you in that place over at Rio Verde.
Yeah, Rio Vista. Mm-hmm.
So it has great meaning for me.
As it does to me as well. Thank you so much for playing that. Oh my gosh, awesome. Hey Josh, everybody wants you to play something. What are you going to play?
Well, I thought I would just do some stride piano since it's one of my favorite things to play. One of my favorite artists is Duke Ellington, and so I thought I'd just do a little snippet of Satin Doll.
Awesome, love that.
So hopefully you guys can see. Here we go.
Fantastic, Josh.
Good job. Art tape.
Thanks, guys.
Hey guys, I mean, if you're watching our Throwback Thursday, you got a treat. You got a special treat. You got a performance today as well. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so very, very much. I have to take a moment to thank Brad York for making all of this happen,
Thank you,
everybody
Brad.
face and everything, making sure everybody can be heard, and he's sending me notes. So thanks, Braddy. And thank you all so much for joining us. And thank you, gentlemen. Of course, a programming note, tomorrow's Friday, which means it's our cabaret. So this week is Comedy Tonight. So it's and we have a wonderful, wonderful lineup. So thanks for watching, everybody. I just want you to keep staying safe and staying healthy. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. It's so great to see you. I love you both. Love you. And if you are so inclined, we do have our donation. It's a bit.ly, bit.ly/donate ABT relief fund. And so if you're so inclined to continue the live music that we have from these wonderful musicians with me today, please think about giving to ABT's Relief Fund. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. Well, everybody stay safe, and we will see you tomorrow night for our cabaret. See you at 7:30, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Kurtis. Thanks, James.